Welcome to NAFDAC and Your Health, where we bring you all the important information you need to know about NAFDAC. The agency is saddled with the responsibility of safeguarding our health by ensuring that the foods, drugs, cosmetics, and medical equipment made available to us are safe and wholesome. My name is Tosin Adebayo. Our daily consumptions have great impact on our well-being. Foods that we consume changes the functionality of the body system, either negatively or positively. Improper preparation and handling of food can lead to food contamination, which can cause health problems to its consumer. On today's episode, we'll explore the problems posed by food contamination and how NAFDAC, as a regulatory agency, has been carrying out activities in ensuring products in the country are safe and wholesome.
Contamination of food can happen anywhere, at any time, and it is so ubiquitous in the sense that it is common that if one is not careful, one can easily, take in contaminated food. Take an example, the plates. The food may be good. If you wash the plate with dirty water, you've contaminated the food. Drinks. People having typhoid. Even the cups that you use, if that water is contaminated, and you rinse it and then pour the drinks, there's still a little of the water there. It can cause problem like typhoid. The source of the food. If you go to to get your water in a very bad place, of course, it's contaminated right from the source. Exposure to flies, exposure to heat. Again, that's contaminated in a way because it's breaking down. If meat breaks down, it's not just the protein that came with the meat, other things are already there. That's contamination. So it can come from the source, it can come from the water, it can come from the plates where it is served, it can come from the preparer of the food. If somebody has diarrhea and you don't wash your hands very well, and you are in a restaurant as a cook, and you are using your finger, of course the germs are under the nails. So the food preparer can also be the source of contamination. The most important thing is that you heat your food as much as you can to make sure that whatever is there is killed. But it's not every time that you have to eat your food. What if you go to a restaurant and whatnot? Buying things from the streets, drinks from the street, buying agbo from a liquid bottle. You just don't know where those bottles came from and how well they were washed and sanitized. So the public has to be very, very careful in terms of buying drinks from the streets, especially if it doesn't have the label of a known company. And if it does have the label of a known company, sometimes they fake it. We just have to be very street smart. Street smart in the sense that you just don't buy drinks or food wrapped in a container or whatever on the street because you don't know where the source of the plastic is. People use plastics for so many things and so many dirty things too, And if they are not washed properly many, many times, for example, plastics that are recycled, they are treated very well in the industry before recycling. They are treated with chemicals to make sure that anything is killed before breaking it up and then recycling it. But for people selling food on the street, that is not there. So the dangers of eating or taking in contaminated food bought on the street is very high.
In strengthening the stand on food safety in Nigeria, NAFDAC hosted members of the National Codex Committee General Purposes Technical Subcommittee, NCCGPTC, in Lagos to deliberate on issues relating to food safety, which will in turn become the nation's interest at the next International Codex meeting.
It is my distinct pleasure to welcome you all to the first physical meeting of the National Codex Committee General Purposes Technical Subcommittee since February 2020 on account of the COVID-19 pandemic. This is also incidentally the first NCCGPTC meeting to hold at our NAFDAC Isolo office. So I welcome you all to our operational headquarters. Throughout the uncertainty of the past couple of years occasioned by the COVID, the NCCGPTC has become more agile and resilient in her commitment to convening and anchoring these meetings despite the prevailing challenges. Today's meeting is convened to deliberate on the agenda items of interest to Nigeria in the forthcoming 15th session of the Codex Committee on Contaminants in Foods, which will hold virtually from the 9th to 13th of May 2022, and also to adequately prepare our national delegates for their effective participation at this international meeting. The task before us as the NCCGPTC is to develop strong national positions in the interest of food safety and ensuring fair practices in food trade. As we know, food is fundamental to human health. We all need food to survive and thrive. And it is also a source of enjoyment, an expression of who we are and our culture. Food brings friends, families, and communities together. Tragically though, food can also be a source of disease and death. Unhealthy diets and unsafe foods are among the top risk factors for the global burden of disease. Food contaminants are harmful substances. Their presence in food causes illness to the consumer. All foods could be at the risk of either biological, chemical, or physical contamination along the food chain. Hence the need for mitigation measures to protect lives. Some contaminants in food are allergenic, while the impact of some chemical contaminants on consumer health is often apparent only after many years of prolonged exposure at low levels. Most recent developments in quality certifications in food processing, transportation, and storage systems are considering contaminants in food as paramount. Our focus on contaminants is not far-fetched, as Nigeria has recorded a fair share of avoidable deaths attributable to food contamination. At this point, let me remind you of the unfortunate incidents that took place in Kano last year. You may recall the case of chemical contamination with hydroxylamine sulfate, which sadly resulted in the death of some of our citizens and several hospitalizations, and also received international attention through the InfoSan network. Nigeria's interest and active participation in the Codex Committee on Contaminants in Foods is therefore very well placed. I want to acknowledge and commend here the excellent work Nigeria has been doing as the chair of the Electronic Working Group for Development of the Code of Practice for the Prevention and Reduction of Mycotoxin Contamination in cassava and cassava-based products. Let me take a few minutes to go over the terms of reference of the Codex Committee on Contaminants in Foods as a refresher and a backgrounder of the task before us today as we deliberate on the agenda items. The terms of reference of this committee are to establish or endorse permitted maximum levels or guideline levels for contaminants and naturally occurring toxicants in food and feed, to prepare priority lists of contaminants and naturally occurring toxicants for risk assessments by the joint FAO-WHO Expert Committee on Food Additives, JECFA, to consider methods of analysis and sampling for the determination of contaminants and naturally occurring toxicants in food and feed, to consider and elaborate standards or codes of practice for related subjects, and to consider other matters assigned to it by the Codex Alimentarius Commission in relation to contaminants and naturally occurring toxicants in food and feed. I'm very optimistic that national positions, which will be the outcome of this meeting, will contribute ultimately towards assuring food safety, safeguarding consumer health, as well as promoting fair practices in food trade and indeed facilitating trade. Thank you for continually trusting in our collective ability as the NCC to find new ways of sustaining the work of Codex in Nigeria. I appreciate your tireless efforts towards the success of the National Codex Committee, General Purposes Technical Subcommittee meetings, and also appreciate the excellent working relationship and collaboration with all members of the National Codex Committee. I wish you all a productive and engaging session. Thank you.
NAFDAC and your health will be right back. Please stay tuned.
As part of NAFDAC concerted effort to prevent incessant food poisoning and to safeguard the health of the nation, the agency wishes to advise the general public to take the following precautionary measures in food handling. Chemicals are not food, so do not taste with your tongue. It is dangerous to health and it can kill. It is dangerous to cook your meat with paracetamol or any drug. It can damage your liver, kidneys, or other organs. Do not ripen your fruits with calcium carbide. It can cause cancer or damage the kidneys or liver. It is dangerous to use sniper to keep insects and other flies away from any food products. Cooking does not remove sniper. Do not consume any mixture or herbal preparation that do not have NAFDAC number. It could be deadly. Too much monosodium glutamate food seasoning that comes as cube or in sachet can be dangerous to your health. Do not add any chemical to food or drink to make it sour or improve taste. Safe food. Everyone's business. NAFDAC. Safeguarding the health of the nation.
Welcome back. If you are just joining us, you're watching NAFDAC and your health.
The meeting is titled National Codex Committee General Purposes Technical Committee. It is a subcommittee of the National Codex Committee. NAFDAC is a member of the National Codex Committee, while Nigeria is a member of International Codex. Codex is all about food, setting food standard. So the purpose, the aim of NCCGPTC, which is the National Codex Committee General Purposes Committee, is to prepare the Nigerian delegates for the International Codex meeting. Codex has so many committee meetings. The one we are considering today is the Codex Committee on Contaminants in Food, which is the 15th session. Codex meetings comes in session every year. We are to prepare the delegates, Nigerian delegates, to go for the next meeting, which will be coming up in May. So normally 2 weeks before the international meeting, all the Codex, all the NCC members will be gathered at the NCCGPTC. NCC is the National Codex Committee, and the DG NAFDAC is the chairman of the National Codex Committee General Purposes Technical Committee, the subcommittee of the NCC, which is known as NCCGPTC, a preparatory Committee. So that is the one we are holding here to prepare Nigerian delegates to the International Codex Committee. We have the Nigerian Industrial Standard. And when each nation to develop their national standards, which is for Nigeria is Nigerian Industrial Standard, we usually recourse to the international standards. So Codex is the international food standard setting body. So in Nigeria, whenever we are to develop our own, we have a standard organization of Nigeria, which is the head of the technical committee for developing Nigeria Industrial Standard. So SON calls for meeting of all the members of the Nigeria Industrial Standard Technical Committee. And in the process of developing the local standard, which we use against adulterated to ensure that all the foods that are in circulation in Nigeria are safe and are fit for human consumption, we definitely have to recourse to the international Codex standard and other international standards. The committee majorly looks into every aspect of contaminants. We have up to 12 agenda items, and each of the agenda items speaks to the different contaminants in various types of food. Cereals are there. We are looking at aflatoxin in cereals. Cassava and cassava products, we are looking at the mycotoxin in cassava products. As I mentioned before, we are looking at cocoa, lead in cocoa. Chocolates also derived from cocoa. We are also looking at lead. So though all the aspects of contaminants are going to be looked into.
The members for today's meeting and generally for our subcommittee meetings for this specific subcommittee are drawn from ministries, departments, and agencies of governments that work in the area of food safety, quality, agriculture, areas that are related to the work of Codex. We also have research institutes. We have consumer organizations. We even have individuals who are interested in the work of Codex and just generally other stakeholders. But these are the core groups that we have convened today for the deliberation. And the work of Codex, what the Codex Alimentarius does essentially is to ensure that consumer health is protected. And aside from consumer health, also that there are fair practices in the food trade, right? Because they go hand in hand. The food has to be safe, it has to be of good quality before it can be traded. And we know that trade is important for nations. So everybody goes in there not necessarily with the protectionist agenda, but you want to speak specifically and strongly about things that would affect you as your country, as a nation, and health of your consumers in your country, as well as ensuring that you can trade with other partners. The word, when people hear Codex, sometimes they haven't even heard of Codex. It sounds mysterious. What is Codex? So essentially what it is in full, you say Codex Alimentarius, and that just means food code. And so what the Codex Alimentarius Commission does is to set international food standards, guidelines, and codes of practices that govern food safety, the quality, ensuring fair practices in food trade. And so they're structured into technical committees.
The DG, Standard Organization of Nigeria, Mr. Farouk Salim, represented at the meeting by Mrs. Nene Madeline Obianu, the Assistant Director Management System Certification, SON, commended the efforts of Professor Mojisola Adeyeye in ensuring the Codex Committee produce outstanding results in its activities.
Let me utilize this opportunity to appreciate the DG NAFDAC for always ensuring preparatory meetings for the Codex Committee sessions under the purview of NAFDAC are convened. It's really well appreciated. This positive development has ensured comments from Nigeria at several meetings, which include the CCCF, CCGP, CCFA, CCPR, CCFL are submitted at their respective plenaries.
It's time now for NAFDAC updates. PMG man pays NAFDAC DG a congratulatory visit. Members of the Pharmaceutical Manufacturers Group of Manufacturers Association of Nigeria paid a congratulatory visit to the DG NAFDAC, Professor Mojisola Adeyeye, on agency's attainment to maturity level 3 of the World Health Organization global benchmarking. The association commended the efforts of the DG NAFDAC as well as staff of the agency that contributed immensely to the success attained in a bid to foster the excellent activities of the agency. Professor Mojisola Adeyeye appreciated members of the Pharmaceutical Manufacturers Group of Manufacturers Association of Nigeria and made it known that the agency will continue to carry out activities that will help safeguard the health of the nation as well as develop the agency to maturity level 4. UNN Alumni Association pays a visit to DG NAFDAC. The members of the University of Nigeria Nsukka Faculty of Pharmacy Alumni Association visited the Director General of NAFDAC, Professor Mojisola Adeyeye, at her office in Lagos. The visit was to appreciate the DG for honoring their invitation to its anniversary lecture as the keynote speaker. Professor Adeyeye appreciated the visit of the members of the association and commended its efforts in ensuring development in the nation.
That's it on NAFDAC Update. You've been updated.
And that's our package for today. Please join us same time, same station next week for a fresh edition. In the meantime, if you have comments, complaints, or you want to report activities of fake drugs or adulterated food product peddlers, our doors are always open. You can reach NAFDAC via toll-free numbers. For inquiries, call 0700 162 3322. For complaints, call 0800 162 3322. You may also email NAFDAC at nafdac.gov.ng. If you have complaints about any form of misconduct, you can reach the Reforms Unit via email reforms@nafdac.gov.ng or call the Reforms hotlines on 0909 763 0506 or 0909 763 0507. NAFDAC, customer-focused, agency-minded. Importing, producing, distributing and selling fake drugs and cosmetics, adulterated food, and so on are criminal activities that destroy lives. Join the fight against these heinous crimes by reporting any suspicious activities in your area to NAFDAC. Let's join hands to safeguard the health of our nation. See you next week. Stay safe.